Hello, everybody. Welcome. Welcome to New York. It's so good to see all of you here. And it's so good to know that the people of Iran will be represented today not by President Ahmadinejad, but by you, the Democratic opposition. So you may say, why are we here today? We're here today to say that Ahmadinejad does not speak for the people of Iran. Only the people of Iran will speak for themselves. We're here today to say that while Ahmadinejad is at the UN, the people of Iran also deserve to be heard at the UN today. And we're here today to take satisfaction in the great campaign that all of you have waged to make sure that the Democratic opposition in Iran has a voice politically. And today that voice is getting stronger thanks to the delisting of the MEK. So today we will talk about the ongoing political struggle to have a new Iran free of nuclear weapons, a new Iran free for all people to be able to have their own organizations, the political freedoms, the personal freedoms, the civil liberties and human rights that have too long been denied the people of Iran. We're here today to once more commit ourselves to that process of making sure that there is a free Iran, a democratic Iran, and someday, instead of Ahmadinejad, we'll have President Mariam Rajavi speak to the UN.
Obviously, the First Amendment is alive and well in New York City. Thank you all, ladies and gentlemen. First of all, I want to say thank you to the organizers of this event for giving me the opportunity to speak after Madame Rajavi. That is a very difficult act to follow. Let us once again recognize that Madame Rajavi is beloved and admired not only in the United States, but with the Iranian diaspora around the world. And I know that you look forward, just as all of us look forward, to the time when Madame Rajavi doesn't speak to us by satellite, but she visits us in the United States of America and speaks to us in person. This has been a long journey, ladies and gentlemen. As Mayor Giuliani mentioned, the journey began many, many years ago. And if you think of the sacrifices that the Democrat opposition and the resistance have made in order to continue the march toward freedom, we are reminded of the courage of Iranian patriots. Over 100,000 of them have died over the past 30 years at the hands of the repressive mullahs and the regimes in charge of the Iranian government. We recognize that the delisting is only the first milestone in a very long journey. But in recognizing the milestone, we recognize the sacrifice of those men and women, mothers and fathers, sons and daughters that were tortured and murdered by this regime. The Book of Martyrs has 20,000 faces, 20,000 names and 5,000 faces, and we know there are so many, many more. The journey has been enabled by literally thousands of men and women, political figures, clergy, diplomatic leaders around the world who said, delist the MEK, it is not a terrorist organization. The journey has been enabled by Iranian diaspora, those of proud Persian descent who look forward to an Iran of tomorrow that is free, that is run by the people, not the mullahs, that is non-nuclear, that's a legitimate democratic republic where the people decide, not the mullahs. It's a journey that's been continued by many of your supporters here in this country. And while all of us felt that MEK should never have been on the list, the terrorist list to begin with, I do think it is appropriate to thank Secretary Clinton for delisting the MEK, because I know there are still people in the Department of State that would have preferred that she continue them on the list. So I personally and publicly say to Secretary Clinton, thank you. But we have more work to do. The delisting is only the first part of the journey. And so let me leave you with a couple of other challenges and a couple other outposts in order to get to the ultimate goal of this journey, and that's a free, open, democrat Iran. We're here outside the United Nations, and I think it's appropriate to call upon the Secretary General of the United Nations to take a look at Camp Liberty and change the designation from a temporary location to a refugee camp. It's absolutely essential that the United Nations recognize that for the foreseeable future, 3,000 Iranian dissidents will be there, subject to the whims of the Maliki government, and we know that subject to their oppression and repression and violent incursion into Camp Ashraf, dozens have died. So we say to the United Nations Secretary General, Camp Liberty must be designated as a refugee camp. It must be afforded that international legal status. And we encourage we encourage the thousands of people from around the world, again, the diplomatic community, the clergy, political leaders, to encourage the UN to do that, and do it soon, do it now. So we want this to be a refugee camp. Then secondly, let's talk about resettlement. We have to be sure that these men and women have a safe haven. They also must have living conditions that are tolerable as they go through this process. So we call on the UN, and we call on the United States, and we call on the broader global community to beseech the Iraqi government, to encourage the Iraqi government, better yet, demand that they honor the commitment they made to the United States when they said they would provide the security and protection for the people of Camp Ashraf, who've now moved to Liberty. The resettlement camp must be habitable. People must be able to sell their wares because they are financing their own camp, their own resettlement location, their own refugee camp. It's absolutely essential. Identified as a refugee camp, it's about time that the world stepped up and assisted the UN and the U.S. government in resettlement. And the third objective. The third objective has been the objective of the Democrat opposition, the Iranian Resistance, and the MEK for decades. That's a free and open society and government in the great country of Iran. The ultimate objective is an Iran where we can have these discussions and these kinds of protests on the streets of Tehran, not just in the streets of New York City. Ahmadinejad, look around. Listen to the Iranian people. They want to run, they want to operate the government, they want to be free. The Democrat resistance, the MEK, and all other opposition groups for decades and decades have looked for one thing. They haven't looked for military assistance, they haven't looked for money. They search, they desire freedom. Freedom. So, ladies and gentlemen, I commend and thank you for your sustained support of your brothers and your sisters and relatives and friends at Ashraf and Liberty. During the past couple of years, I've had to meet with many of the parents and brothers and sisters of those who have been tortured, imprisoned, and murdered. It's a great humanitarian cause that unites us. And the first step the first step in this effort has been the delisting. The ultimate goal is a free democratic republic of Iran. And the only way you bring about a regime change are for this country and for our allies to support publicly, loudly, and persistently the Democrat opposition in Iran. The MEK is the best and most well organized. It's been in opposition for decades. Someone asked me, a reporter asked me a few moments ago, if you could say something to Ahmadinejad, what would you say to him? I gave him a fairly long answer, but I'll give you a shorter version. Ahmadinejad, abdicate, leave town, leave Tehran, leave Iran's future up to the people of Iran. Let the people decide. Thank you.